So the Department of Defense came out with this new program called the New Enterprise-Wide Cloud by 2022. They're calling it as the Joint Warfighting Cloud Capability, the JWCC. Now, this was basically designed to cancel this contract, which was given to Microsoft back in 2019. Well, both Amazon and Microsoft had competed for this program, and ultimately Microsoft won the program and Amazon lost. But all of a sudden, this rhetoric is coming out in the stock market that Palantir might win this contract, or Palantir could be beneficial in a major long-term case because of this contract. So let's try to understand what is happening and why a company like Palantir, who's competing, or you already have companies, giants like Microsoft and Amazon in play, how can a company like Palantir come in and help? And this contract was signed back in 2019. Why did Palantir not help back then? Why was Palantir not important back then? Well, Palantir was already in business, and back then they were more focused on the government projects rather than now. I mean, now they're also looking into the commercial aspects, but back then they were dedicatedly focused just for the government projects. So why didn't Palantir jump in back then, and why people think that Palantir can do something now? So let's try to understand what it is. So back in 2019, Microsoft won this contract, and it was up to a value of $10 billion over a period of 10 years. And Microsoft was going to create this enterprise or massive cloud that could bring all the government services, the defense services especially, into one platform. They were calling it as the infrastructure as service, the platform as a service. So they could bring everything, all the performance, everything that is required, and it will be bringing under one roof. And Microsoft was designed to do that. But then Amazon was also in play with it. Amazon, Microsoft, IBM, Google, Oracle, they were all part of this. And this is a very interesting story that I came across. It's almost like a Game of Thrones kind of a plot going on, and let's try to understand. So Microsoft and Amazon were considered as the biggest competitors for this particular contract. And when there's 10 billion in play, it's a big amount for any of the companies to look into. So Microsoft and Amazon were considered the big breakers. Then you had the Alphabet, Google, Oracle, and IBM. Now try to see how Microsoft takes care of all the other bidders in this game. So number one, Alphabet. Now Alphabet was thrown out because Google, it had this other issue going on where people started to talk about how Google was being used for their drone program. And at that instance, in order to preserve its image, Google pledged that it will no longer develop AI weapons, but states that it will still work with the military. So with that, Google came out of the game. The second was Oracle. And this guy was interesting. So the Oracle company even went to the extent of telling that, hey, Pentagon was using employees from Amazon who were back in 2016. And then they influenced Pentagon's stand to be in more favor of Amazon. And later when everything was done, then Amazon retook their employees back. So basically they tried to say that, yes, Amazon sent some of their agents over to Pentagon to influence their program towards their favor. And being Amazon with the AWS, with all these cloud programs, people thought, and the industry thought, that Amazon would win the program because of their services, because of the capabilities that they were performing, and all the other benefits that Amazon covers. It's a massive cloud. And the number one criteria was they should be available everywhere. And so that's where Amazon was seen or poised to win. But then all of a sudden, the Donald Trump administration started taking part into it. And Donald Trump himself came into the picture and said, hey, I've received a lot of complaints from other companies, and it looks like this is a contract that we should be keeping a close eye on. And immediately at that instant, the contract, which was almost going to be given to Amazon, was then given to Microsoft. Satya Nadella and all the Microsoft party won the contract, and then eventually they started off with the 10 billion contract with starting with a pay of $1 million for the first year, just an advance payment for maintenance to Microsoft. At that very instant, Amazon filed a lawsuit against the Pentagon. Amazon basically said that this was not because of merit, but because Donald Trump hates Jeff Bezos, because Jeff Bezos owns Washington Post, and Washington Post had a negative onset towards Donald Trump. So Donald Trump basically, because of the hatred that he had at Jeff Bezos, he gave the contract to Microsoft. So that was the rhetoric which Amazon came out with, and they filed a lawsuit. And that lawsuit was still continuing on, and it was dragging the contract and basically halted the contract in itself. And then, of course, Microsoft was also halted, everything was halted. And in order to, or it had the option to whether fight that contract or fight that lawsuit with Amazon or with Jeff Bezos, or it could release a new contract. So that's exactly what the DOD did. So it went back and it canceled, it announced the cancellation of the JEDI program, which was given to Microsoft, and instead it went on to creating a new program called the JWCC that we just read. Now, there's something interesting here. When JEDI was offered to Microsoft, yes, Microsoft was very happy about it, and they were very excited to win the contract, and they didn't have to say anything in the negative aspect. But Amazon lost the contract, and then it went to the extent of filing the lawsuit against Pentagon. But what happened when they canceled JEDI? So basically, Amazon lost that 10 billion contract, which is a huge blow for them. You can see the price for the stock market reacted in a negative way, and basically Microsoft was down because of this news, whereas Amazon went up. So it took a huge blow just because of this. Well, again, it's a big company, so a small blow like this doesn't hurt so much, but it did affect them. And conversely, basically, Microsoft came out and said, hey, yeah, we understand all this, and we understand government's decision to take care of this, and we agree, and we believe we're okay with the government or the Pentagon moving forward. So it basically said, okay, we're okay with the decision that the Pentagon or the government has taken, and we are fine with it. We'll move on. That's okay. So that rhetoric is something interesting to look into. A company who just lost their 10 billion contract, and basically because Amazon filed the lawsuit and it was being tainted for this long period, well, it should have said something more than that, or maybe it's some taken. So it looks like there's already something in play. It looks like probably, well, again, this is just a hunch. This is just a research, which could be wrong. So just from the perspective. So it could be, it could not be. So they basically said, yes, well, we are okay with the JEDI being canceled, and we look forward to it. But now with the new contract, Amazon and Microsoft again are being considered. So the JWCC, or the Defense Department, is looking at the two primary US-based hyperscale cloud service providers for direct solicitations. The two companies are Microsoft and again Amazon. So these two companies will be then reached out later in October of this year for direct solicitations, for direct offers, to see how they would be participating in the JWCC. So what's happening? I mean, the JEDI was basically between Microsoft and Amazon. Again, the JWCC will be again between Microsoft and Amazon. But I think Microsoft at this point would be better poised, because now it has been with the government, with that particular sector for quite some time now. They've been already working around. And again, Microsoft did function a little bit at their expenses, for which they would get some compensation back for it. They might ask for it or they might not ask for it. But more importantly, they understood how those things work, and they have a better understanding of how to approach this situation. But the government basically said that, yeah, we did cancel it because back then when JEDI was formed, there was a different set of requirements, different cloud services that was needed at that moment. But now it's completely new, and we would like to revisit the contract. So that's the rhetoric which the government has. But now again, it's going back to the same guys, Microsoft and Amazon, and telling, hey, you guys come again, please create the system. So it's nothing but a very nice, interesting story from a Game of Thrones plot. Basically, the big billionaires playing together. Now, this is something interesting, and this is where Palantir might be helpful, might work out. So the department by April 2022 aims at awarding the contract. But here is the difference. Multi-award, multi-vendor cloud solution. Well, back then in 2019 or 2017, 2018, when the Jedi program was going on, the Trump administration wanted just one player in the market. They wanted to offer or order that solution just to one vendor. So it could either be Microsoft, Amazon, Google, whoever it is, but it should be one company altogether from the start to the end. So the turnkey solution was under the hand of just one company. But under the Biden administration, it's going to be a multi-award, multi-vendor cloud solution. And it's only for 5 years compared to the 10 years, which was the Jedi program. So the multi-vendor is where the Pentagon or the DOD would require not just Microsoft and Amazon, but other players, and they will request for their solicitation as well. So that is where Palantir could come in, because the whole program is designed to bridge in all the different departments, all the different sectors under one roof, under one cloud network. And Palantir does a pretty good job, and they have been proving themselves into different sections. So while Microsoft and Amazon are the cloud service providers, one of the biggest cloud service providers in the United States, Palantir specializes in integrating the data from different sections. So that is where Palantir could come and help out. They're also talking about, going back and approaching IBM, Oracle, and Google, but at this time it could just be namesake. And it could be again back to Microsoft and Amazon. And depending on where the administration or which company goes in, then it'll be interesting to see which would go forward. But as far as Palantir is considered, well, it's both Microsoft and Amazon, where it works with both of them. It works with the AWS already, and it already has partnerships and programs going on with Microsoft. So whoever wins, it doesn't matter. There could be a chance, there could be a possibility of Palantir. Well, again, this is again a rumor and not a news, nothing which is set in place. And how much more of it would affect Palantir, we don't know to be sure. But this is again something interesting to look into, just understanding how these big companies play around and how the politics around it come into picture. But I just found it very interesting to go over and understand and dig all this information. Just want to share it out with you. Again, this is not financial advice. This is just more of a research and fun, just to understand how things are running, especially for the companies that we are working with. With that, take care, stay safe, bye-bye.